Kamala Khan has so many romantic options currently open to her in the Disney Plus Miss Marvel miniseries. But of course, the one that might hold the most promise for her right now is the relationship that's developing in Pakistan with the Red Dagger named Kareem. When these two met, the sparks were flying. Or, since Kamala's part Jinn, maybe it was the light or Noor that was flying. Anyway, ever since that fateful meeting by the Karachi train station, these two crazy kids have been kind of crushing on one another. And if you know anything about the original Miss Marvel comic book saga, then you know that there's probably a great chance of Kareem coming stateside to live with the Khan family as a foreign exchange student. So does this mean that Miss Marvel should end up with Red Dagger, or the Red Dagger called Kareem? Or should Kamala tell Bruno not to go to Caltech over on the West Coast because they're meant for each other? Or is Kamran just so hot that both Bruno and Kareem don't even have a chance? Well, we're going to discuss all that right now. Welcome back to the Mama Saga, where this Marvel-loving mama is a mother by day, but breaks down comic books, sagas, movies, and shows like Miss Marvel by night. Before we go any further, it should go without saying, but I'll just issue a warning. Spoiler alert! There are spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched all available episodes of Miss Marvel yet, because we're going to go through parts of them to discuss some of Kamala Khan's potential romantic relationships in this video, including Red Dagger, Bruno, Carrelli, and Kamran of the Clandestines. So if you need to catch up on any part of the miniseries thus far, then you might want to exit this video and go catch up and then come back. Okay, so when it comes to Kamala and Kareem the Red Dagger, here's what's gone down so far. When Kamala went to check out the Karachi train station for clues as to the bangle, her powers, and the train that was central to the visions potentially tying everything together, she first encountered the Red Dagger named Kareem. As it turns out, there isn't one vigilante called Red Dagger in the MCU. Instead, it's a group called the Red Daggers that have existed for hundreds of years in order to protect Pakistan, and quite frankly, the entire world, against the clandestines and the threat that they pose to our dimension. So there, we already have a departure from the pre-existing comic book saga. But nevertheless, just like in the comic book saga, Kamala and Kareem begin crushing on one another. In episode 4 of the Miss Marvel miniseries, they're trading quips and barbs while battling one another until they realize that they're on the same side and chill out. Later on, when Kareem introduces Kamala to the head of the Red Daggers, Waleed, you can see from the expressions on their faces that the two teens are definitely warming up to one another even more. Before the end of episode 4, Kareem introduces Kamala to his friends as they hang out at a romantic campfire, eating and relaxing to some gentle guitar music, and they're checking each other out the entire time. So you might say to yourself, sure, these two maybe should end up together. They're both young superheroes. They both have Pakistani genetics and culture that they share and respect. They both are making googly eyes at one another. It's kismet. Why fight it? But it's time to face the facts. Kareem has competition. If you haven't seen my very popular YouTube video yet entitled Who's Miss Marvel's Love Interest, you should definitely check that video out after watching this one, because it's gonna walk you through my fine-grained analysis of Kamala Khan's love interests in the comic book saga and how all of that worked out, and the theories I had concerning those love interests moving forward into the Miss Marvel Disney Plus miniseries. I don't want to repeat all of that here, but trust me, it's a video that's performed very well for me, so it's worth a watch through if you haven't done so already. And hey, we party live on this channel every week, and I have pre-edited content that goes up on this channel several days a week too, so please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Anyhow, how things are shaping up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is already super different in some ways than how they went down in the comic book saga. So far, we're through 4 episodes of the 6-episode Miss Marvel miniseries, and we know for sure that Bruno Carrelli, one of Kamala's best friends since 2nd grade, is definitely in love with her. And there's been sparks there on Kamala's side, too. There was even a moment on the rooftop of Bruno's building where they might have kissed, but then along came Kamran, who is most certainly not an Inhuman the way he was in the Miss Marvel comic book saga, but instead is at least part, if not completely, Jinn in terms of his genetic makeup. Unless I'm mistaken, from a comment his mother Najma made in episode 3, it would appear as though Kamran was born on Earth, just like Kamala was. Kamran just ruined the groove going on between Kamala and Bruno, and it became very clear that Bruno was not a fan of Kamran from day one. Anyway, unlike the comic book saga, Kamran is not an instant villain. In fact, he stood up for Kamala against the clandestines, and yes, that included his own mother, who ended up instructing the group to dump Kamran in episode 4 because he betrayed them to Kamala at her brother Amir's wedding. You know, that was when the clandestines were coming to force Kamala to use her bracelet and her powers to lift the veil of Noor, or light energy, between their dimension and the Earth in order to send that group of Jinn back home. Of course, Bruno warned Kamala not to do that, at least not without making sure it was safe first, because otherwise it might destroy everything and everyone. Well, it turns out our boy Bruno was right. According to Walid of the Red Daggers in episode 4, Kamala lifting that veil of Noor would have caused our dimension to be consumed or destroyed by the Noor dimension. Oops. Anyway, as of right now in the series, as we wait for episode 5 of Miss Marvel to drop, Bruno is still pining for Kamala, but especially after watching Kamala drool all over Kamran, Bruno announced to Kamala that he's accepting the full ride scholarship he was offered to attend to Caltech in the fall. Yes, that will take him to California, and meanwhile, Kamala, Bruno, and crew are living in Jersey City, New Jersey. So if he does go through with leaving, it might take him out of the equation because, you know, he's going to be living on another coast. Score 1 for Kareem the Red Dagger. Maybe Miss Marvel should end up with him. But Kamran is now living life on his own, on the lam, and will probably try to circle back and find Kamala once she's back in the United States. If he stays a protagonist and remains loyal to Kamala, and does not flip to an antagonist, then Kareem the Red Dagger is gonna have some serious competition. Kamran is super hot, and Kamala was crushing on him very hard for like 2 episodes of the series thus far. But what if Kamran flips his loyalties to remain true to his mother and his extended family, the clandestines, and he kidnaps Kamala as a peace offering, for example? Well, that would be more accurate to his comic book roots, and then he'll, of course, be out of the romantic picture involving Kamala, too. Score 2 for Kareem the Red Dagger. However, not so fast, Kareem. Kamala's not going to stay within easy reach of you. It doesn't appear thus far that Kamala and her mother, Muniba, are going to move in with Grandma Sana over in Pakistan, where Kareem currently lives. In fact, quite the opposite. Muniba asked Sana to consider moving overseas to live with her extended family in America, since she is aging and frail with a bad leg and the need to walk with a cane and so on. So I really don't think Kamala's going to be able to keep up such a long-distance romantic relationship with Kareem if her family goes back to America. But hold up. Per the Miss Marvel comic book saga, Kareem became an exchange student in America and therefore was in close proximity to Kamala because he attended the same school as Kamala did. He had familial ties to her nanny and ended up living with the Khans. However, in the comic book saga, at least thus far, that relationship did not pan out. Jersey City did have 2 superheroes protecting it, And if the storyline of Kareem coming to America as an exchange student does pan out in the MCU, then that will allow for New Jersey to remain protected while Kamala runs off with Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau into outer space for the upcoming MCU movie, The Marvels. But will the MCU version of Kamala and Kareem's romantic relationship end differently than it did, at least so far, in the comics? We don't know. What do I think? Well, I want to hear what you think in the comments section down below this video. Me, I think that the MCU would be best served having all three boys stay in the romantic rotation with Kamala. That's what I think. Even if Bruno does go off to California, if Kamala ends up joining, let's say, the West Coast Avengers, she could see him. Or they could have a long-distance relationship while he's in California, and then on breaks and summer vacation, they can date. Meanwhile, Kamran, if he doesn't transform into a villain, could serve as a love interest too, while Kareem follows the comic book storyline and comes over as an exchange student living with the Khans, making it difficult for Kamala to choose. Whether Miss Marvel the miniseries is being renewed for season 2 is up in the air. So, why exhaust all of these potential romantic interests if you don't have to? I'm just saying. Now we're on to the Mama Saga post-credit scene. Depending upon when you're watching this video, you're gonna either be partying with me live or watching and commenting on the replay. But either way, don't miss my Miss Marvel episode 5 reactions, review, Easter eggs, and theories. I'm super thorough even for a first watch through, and we always have a great time, so please be sure to join us. We have lives going on every single week, planned moving forward, so if you love all things Marvel, you won't want to miss them. Anyway, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to the Mama Saga for more comic book saga breakdowns, Salty Mama style. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you next time.